Good afternoon, everybody. We'll get started here
Hey,
just shortly. I'm going to give a couple minutes for everybody to get into the meeting. We are broadcasting live on YouTube, so hang tight with us as we get everybody in.
Good afternoon, all.
Afternoon.
hey, how are you, Bob?
Having a wonderful day now that most of the rain is over.
Very good.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I know that we have some folks that are still going to be joining us here in just a moment, but since it is 4 o'clock, there's a reminder. We'll go ahead and get the meeting going. Um, Rebecca, do you want to start as I start letting folks in?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you everybody for being able to switch gears so quickly. Actually, it was kind of nice when Matt and Katie mentioned yesterday that we might have to figure out a different plan for the meeting. Looking at the weather, it seemed like having a Zoom meeting might not be too bad. The chances of it being flash floods, I'm okay with just doing it on Zoom. So thanks for being here. So I emailed out the meat of the application draft this morning. So did folks get that? And I don't know if people had a chance to look at it. Really, thanks a lot for everybody for generating such great ideas. I have the notes from the last meeting when everybody talked about this kind of thing, and especially like the community programs and various things going on. That was a huge help in putting the draft together. But I guess, if you had a chance to look at it, are there things that glaring omissions and things that I completely forgot, or that just on first pass you think should be switched up? Any? There are, I think it showed in some of here, there were word limits and then word requirements. So some things, especially in the last section, I had to edit down pretty much because it was only 100 words max. So I think, Bob has said before that this is really just the entry point. We don't have to, we're not expected to, and we don't have to know everything about how this is going to go. But that, AARP just wants to know why we want to be part of this initiative, and, some things we're already doing and what our plans to do might look like. So Bob, do you have any helpful notes?
Well, one of the things that this initial document introduces Jamestown to the AARP Livable Community Group, and you've done a great job in doing that. It's very impressive with the things that you've listed, the things that you've done, and it really shows that. The flexibility, maybe aggressiveness, listening skills, performance skills that Jamestown as a small community has. So my compliments to you and the team for putting this together, but also my compliments to those members of Jamestown over the many past years and what they've been able to accomplish. And I think in this sharing, it will show the people both in Raleigh and the group in Raleigh and also the group in DC that this is going to be a great relationship. Both teams coming together and sharing, and both teams growing and learning from that sharing. So I think you guys have done a great job. Yeah, I don't see any holes, and I'm glad you took the small approach to it.
Good. Well, thank you. That's very helpful. There are, obviously a few other things as part of the application. I didn't include everything because, really, I just wanted folks to be able to see the main questions and make sure we're on the right page with that. So I guess next steps, we can just finish putting that together. And I don't know, Bob, Matt, do you feel like at the next meeting we should just look at the finished package, or do you feel like this is enough that we can just add on the letter? And we had a resolution that passed, I think, back in October, so we already have these extra documents that need to be added to it. But do you think it's in a position pretty much ready to submit, or do one more pass?
I'll just say I thought it was very good, Bob. You're the expert.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a long way from being an expert on this. That's why I'm saying I'm glad you kept it simple. You really have pointed out the great things that Jamestown has been able to accomplish. I think the other thing that really shows is the quickness in pulling this document together. Most applications take many, many months and even years before an application is submitted. So I think you've done great there. With your approval, I'd like to share this with Mark Hensley and get his quick brush on it. Mark has worked with Guilford County on this. Mark has worked with Archdale on their application, working with Rockingham County on their application. And Mark has some tremendous connections at state level, both, I guess, housing and also health and human services. If you're okay with that, I'd like to have him take a look at it, and he'll turn it around quickly. But I think you're pretty close. I don't see any flaws. I don't see any reason why we will not, or Jamestown will not be granted the approval of the application and the next step. So I think you guys have done a great job. You really have. But I'd like to share that with Mark if I could.
That sounds great. Yeah, and thank you
Absolutely.
so much. You've been invaluable with all of your help and shepherding us along in this process. So thank you for that.
Well, like I said, it's you you take pride in a group or a team, or you take pride in your kids when they just kind of all come together as a team and work. And you guys have done that. And I see nothing but great things going forward with this application and this venture.
Great. Well, thanks. Well, if there's no more on the application, sounds like that'll just be the next step, getting it in front of Mark and hearing his feedback. So thanks. I guess, Matt, can I turn it over to you?
Absolutely, that's fine. I don't have the agenda in front of me. Did we have, I know we wanted to discuss next meeting dates, but do we have anything else on the agenda that we need to run through this afternoon? That was a lot faster than I thought.
We've got the discussion about code enforcement.
Yes, thank you. So apologies. I just came out of another phone call, so I was scrambling to get this up, and I don't have the agenda in front of me. So the town has engaged with Alliance Code Enforcement, and the gentleman's name is Brandon Emery. He will be meeting with Anna and I on next week, early next week, to talk about starting there. We have a running tally of some things that are out there that we need him to take a look at. And then he'll be looking at some of the more glaring issues that are going on as far as code enforcement. I know that there have been a number of you that have reached out to me, and that's fantastic. We also have had a number of citizens in the community reach out to us as a result of the article that was in the Jamestown News related to that, and have offered their services, or that they would help connect people with others that could help. So for example, if somebody, maybe their mower broke down and they just haven't had a chance to get around to mowing their yard, and somebody called and complained about it, and we usually give them a telephone call or try to get in touch with them. Sometimes we have to send a letter, but if they contact us and we turn it over to Brandon and they say, well, my mower broke down, I just don't know what to do. It'd be great for us to have some information so that we can share that with others, and connect them with people in our community who are willing to help. So I know that if you have experience with others, if you know churches or civic groups or just good Samaritans that are willing to step up every now and again to help somebody that is really in a situation. I mean, this is not intended to, be free lawn care service or anything like that, but for some of the smaller type things that people can reach out to each other and help, we'd be glad to hear some of that information. You can, offline send it to me. You can, drop me an email, or just talk to me. I'd be glad to jot that down and share that with Brandon. I know he prides himself on being able to get people connected that need that type of help. So that's what I have on Brandon. This is certainly not supposed to be a penalizing type of an engagement. Certainly, we want to make sure that we keep the community looking nice and help keep property values up. But anybody have any specific questions about code enforcement?
Dee, you're muted.
Thank you. I don't have a specific question, except, are you keeping a running list of the resources that don't mind helping when push comes to shove? Because I've talked to several of the disabled residents in our area, and they don't want to get in a bind. I definitely don't want to get in another bind. I've been there. I lived through it. So I was concerned that we have the contacts available somewhere. Of course, I would come to you or to Matthew first, but
it's a very good question. I appreciate that. So We talked about trying to keep a running list here. From an administrative standpoint, it's difficult for us to keep. I'm not going to certainly give out somebody's information, but what we are planning to do is use Brandon as our liaison in that capacity. So I would pass along to him, let's just say, the Baptist Men's Group, for example, is willing to help folks from time to time with on an as needed basis, and they would be able to evaluate that. So I would pass along that kernel of information to Brandon, and he would say, okay, I will try to connect those two individuals. We certainly don't want to try to keep a list, and we don't want to have people call us and say, who's willing to do free lawn care service for us, and us give out some names. That's not the intention here. The intention is that if there is a violation that's going on, that we can have a conversation, a dialogue with the person that's in that violation and determine what's going on. Certainly not every case is going to yield that type of outcome, but there could be people that really have just an extenuating circumstance, and they may be able to qualify for that, and that's going to be a judgment that is made by Brandon on an as needed basis. But at this point, I'm just trying to be a conduit for that information to him.
I appreciate that, Matthew, more than you'll ever know.
And we always can recommend 211, which is the United Way outreach line. It's a free service across the United States, and they have local resources available, and that number is 24/7.
Thank you, Anna.
Any other questions about code enforcement?
I just want to thank you for giving that update, Matt. This was something that Dee had reached out wanting to know a little bit more about, and also just it's changed some in Jamestown within the past few months with using this Alliance code enforcement. It's been kind of a shift for Jamestown, and when we learned about it on council, it was a learning process for some folks, but personally, I'm excited about it because I think it'll mean more consistent application. It will be one person to be able to contact whose role really is just code enforcement, and this Brandon person who's very nice and professional in all of the dealings, that I've had with him, certainly presenting before council. He knows what he's doing, and since he's former law enforcement, I think he's able to read situations really well. Because sometimes there are code enforcement issues, and you send somebody in, and it's something bigger than maybe a general staff member. It's safe for them to handle. So I think it's good from a few different perspectives. But I know on council, we were especially impressed with him talking about how he's worked with other communities and really putting folks in touch with resources that can help them out. Because here in Jamestown, he did sort of an audit of town, just drove through and looked at the different types of violations, the numbers of violations. And just, I'm sure lots of you have also seen, it seems like it sometimes falls in a few places. Either we do have folks who maybe have lived here for a long time and they used to be able to keep up their home and lawn and whatever else very well. But, maybe age or health or other circumstances beyond their control have gotten to the point where they're not able to do that as they would want to. So to me, when I see certain types of code violations, it's not, how dare they, let their lawn get overgrown or something like that. But that's an opportunity for someone to be able to step in and say, hey, is there something else going on? Maybe this person or this family needs some help. And so to me, that was really impressive in the way that Brandon works with that. I mean, certainly there are other circumstances where, the owner of a home may live in another state now. Maybe someone inherited the building, or they're using it as a rental or something like that, and just don't really know that things are going bad, or don't have the incentive to keep the house up to the standards of the houses around it. So I think it's helpful there too. If there are places that habitually may have some issues, it's typically older neighbors who have reached out to me and had those concerns. Maybe safety issues, either a home looking vacant, overgrown yards, maybe having around here we have copperheads. That's just something that happens around here. So really, it's a safety issue, and it is something that it seems that older residents often are concerned about. So it seemed like a good opportunity to be able to talk about that in the AARP forum and really talk about the resources that we're hopefully bringing in to help abate some of those issues. So
it's a good point, because from time to time we've had people who are absentee, you know, they live out of town, and they had somebody lined up to take care of the yard, and they thought everything was going just fine, and it wasn't. And then when you actually contacted them, they said, "Oh, you know, oh no, I did not realize that," and they jumped right on it. So it's always it's case dependent. And another thing I wanted to reiterate is that Anna and myself will continue to be primary contact here at the town for people who have, you know, concerns about other properties. We will just be working with Brandon. He won't be here in town all the time. Obviously, we can't do that. He has other clients around the state, but we will tag team this. We will work on it together. He's going to be looking at some of the harder cases that we have to deal with, and trying to make some inroads there. So we're looking forward to this being a collaboration between both the town and the consultant. But if you do have contacts, you do have people that you know that could help with that. If anybody in the community that's watching this that has those, feel free to just shoot me an email. I will contact Brandon and let him know that's out there. So any other questions? I see Dee, hang on, we'll get you unmuted there. Hang on. There you are.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure. I mowed. I'm doing the best I can. We're doing a fence this fall. But as far as overgrowth, am I okay?
So
I'm
we've
living
had
in
that
honest.
conversation, and we can certainly talk offline about it. You know, so I don't want to air that out with everybody, but we've had that conversation before, and we can have that offline with you.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Any other concerns or questions about code enforcement? Well, seeing none, oh, Pam, hang on. I'm gonna get you unmuted there.
You're muted, Pam.
Go. Got it.
There you go.
Thank you. So one of the things that kind of crossed my mind as it relates to the code enforcement is that some of us live in communities that have HOAs, and how we can, I'm not certain if there's a way to ensure that the HOA is as knowledgeable about code enforcement, as well, because sometimes the HOA is not as knowledgeable about certain things that are going on in the town, or they might be more, I think what it is that they may be more knowledgeable what's going in the direct community that they may be managing, but not necessarily about the town itself. So that's, could be something that we might be able to discuss at some point on how we could.
Well, I would just jump out there, and I'll speak for myself. I'm glad to make myself available to talk to anybody at the HOA.
Okay.
And do you guys have regular meetings? Is it monthly meetings or quarterly meetings?
Well, it should be, annually, but due to COVID, that has
Sure.
always, yeah.
But if you ever want anybody from the town, I'll make myself available to come out and to have a discussion with the HOA. It's good to put faces and names together, and let them know kind of the steps. Generally, HOA has a little bit more authority within their neighborhood because they're enforcing restricted covenants, things that you agreed to abide by when you move to that community. And ours, generally kick in. It's probably a little bit more egregious by the time that it gets to the point where the town can address that. I know you live in Whittington Hall, so for example, if grass was 9 to 10 inches in Whittington Hall, the HOA probably would have already addressed that before the town would get there. But and that's one of the beauties of having an HOA is that they're a little bit more cognizant of what's going on day to day in their community and can address that and maybe get in touch with people before it gets to the point, it gets elevated to the point where I have to deal with it. But I'd be glad to come out and talk to any of your community groups, HOAs, anybody like that. We will definitely make ourselves available to do that.
That's great. Thanks, Matt.
Sure. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I'll stop talking about code enforcement.
I think the only other thing on the agenda was to talk about the next meeting.
Yes. So Rebecca and I had talked a little bit about keeping this more sort of on a every other month schedule. It works well for staff. And I apologize for the meeting staff through today. We had another group that was utilizing the space that we would have been meeting in. So with the weather and everything that's going on, it's almost a little bit better that we're able to do it this way. But we will try to go back to an in-person meeting September the 9th at 4 p.m. Does that sound like it would work for everybody? Great. It's a little bit out, so we and at that point we will have heard back from Bob. Remind me of his name.
Yeah, I would think that we'll have a response back to you on your draft. Oops, excuse me. Still, no, muted, not muted. Sorry. Have response back on the draft early next week.
That's very quick. I think we can have a draft. We can email that out to everybody. And we can certainly get together September the 9th at 4 p.m. and see if we can get that step done and get the application ready to submit. And John Farsheets is on the chat box. He wasn't able to he didn't have a microphone, so he did say yes. I just wanted to make that for the record. So we will look forward to everybody getting together in person at the Civic Center on September the 9th at 4 p.m. Anything else for the good of the group?
Bravo, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Let's thank Rebecca. She did a great job with this.
Awesome. Thanks, Rebecca.
Stop it. You all generated the ideas.
It was simple, it was succinct. It wasn't overdone or undone.
And Anna's clapping. I can see it on the screen. She's a much better Zoom user than I am. I'll put it that way. But well, seeing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn for today. But thank everybody for their time for jumping in today. I really appreciate it, and thanks for doing that on short notice. We look forward to seeing you, if not before. We have music in the park on August the 3rd. That's our National Night Out event. So we're going to be working on some details for that. But we'd love to see you guys come out and join us out there.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
afternoon. See ya. Bye-bye.